I think we're live now. Is everything working? I see. Let's see. Where's the chat? Oh, see, I did it the other way yesterday. I didn't have the chat pulled up right. All right. Good morning. Good morning. We're getting ready to talk about the Super Tuesday stuff, and guys, let's just do it. All right, good morning. Ooh, my seat kind of. There we go. Get my chair back up where it's supposed to be. Good morning, everybody. So, Super Tuesday yesterday. Y'all, we've been doing this show long enough to cover this. This will be the third presidential election that we're covering on this show. And normally, for a show like this, for any news show, really, whether you're doing active journalism or like we do on this, analysis and opinion, general election, presidential election year is the Olympics. I mean, it's the Super Bowl. It's the big game. Our views are up. And they're gonna continue to go up and up and up until after this election. We'll probably enjoy a little bit of a bump following the election once it's over, doing, the post-mortem on both campaigns, right? As far as that goes, it doesn't matter if Trump wins or Biden wins. After the election, we'll do a post-mortem on, okay, what could the loser have done better? What did the winner do right? Or perhaps, if it goes the wrong way, how did the winner steal this election? But it's tough this year because there are no surprises, right? At no point have we been on the edge of our seat wondering, ooh, who's going to win the primary? Who's going to win the primary? No. There was never any doubt. The things that have been not even surprising, I would say amusing, are things like, basically there's two that have been amusing. One of them we talked about a little bit yesterday, and that is that Nikki Haley won. Oh, she won her primary in D.C. Isn't that adorable? I mean, just adorable. And like I said yesterday, what happened in D.C. is both Republicans showed up and one of them brought a Democrat. Really, that's basically what happened in D.C. About 1,600 people voted, and 2/3 of them voted for Haley. In D.C., where You can't throw a rock at a Democrat without hitting a laundromat, right? A money laundering machine. That's what DC is. You know, Washington DC is just it's basically the World Trade Tower of Democrat money laundering. It's where they keep the books for the operations that they're running around the world. So for Nikki Haley to win there is Donald Trump winning. It is a statement by the DC core that Donald Trump is the preferred candidate of the American people, and that is the opposite of the interest of the federal government and the employee body of the federal government. Right? So if you're in the government, you're not pro-Trump. And a big reason for that is one of the big things that makes people pro-Trump is that Trump is not a big government guy. Now, you hear all the talk about, oh, well, Trump on Twitter, Trump, blah, 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 blah. And, okay, he made some mistakes. I absolutely agree. Donald Trump made some mistakes. The bump stock ban. And I've talked, for example, I think that's probably the biggest mistake that he made in a lot of key ways. There are other things that he did badly that I would say had a greater overall impact. But the bump stock ban in particular, I think, is instructive and illustrative and gives us extremely optimistic hope for the future. Because I think that Donald learned a very, very important lesson that day. When the bump stock ban happened, you had the gun grabbers just screaming for that particular executive order. And Trump made the mistake then of believing that these are people who act in good faith. They oppose my political. We're on different sides of an issue. We disagree on things, but the opposition is acting in good faith. They're honest men and women, and they honestly believe what they purport to believe. I think when he did the bump stock ban and saw that they just kept asking for more, he learned the lesson. If you give them an inch, they will murder your children. That's what the Democrat Party is. If you give them an inch, they will mutilate and murder your children. And Here to Lurk says, except that he liked taking the guns first, due process second. Yeah, again, I think that's another place where he learned a big lesson, and that's going to change a lot of his decision-making process once he is reelected. And we as conservatives, as voters, as veterans, many of us, need to hammer that shit. Right? I know some of you guys are at least as involved in the politics as I am. And when I say involved in politics, I'm not just talking about doing the show. You know, I read a shitload of news to be ready to do the show, to know what I'm going to talk about, to form opinions on analysis done on what's available in the press, as it were. But I'm at rallies. I'm talking to politicians. I'm shaking hands with people that are elected. I'm asking questions of these officials. I've had personal individual contacts with many of your favorite candidates. I'm out there doing that. And I honestly believe that we're going to see a significantly different Donald Trump to what we saw before. And, well, okay, no. I think different technically. I suspect what we're going to see is more of what we liked at the beginning, which is when Donald Trump first went into office, he began with executive orders slashing regulation. And it was absolutely directly the result of that we enjoyed extraordinary prosperity, cheap gas, and world peace throughout Trump's administration. right? Okay, and I say world peace. Obviously, there was still stuff going on, but Trump eliminated ISIS almost overnight. It was just done. It was done so fast that no reasonable person could look at the situation and not come to the advised conclusion that the existence of ISIS was a thing that was intentionally facilitated by the prior administration. Obama made, funded, and aided ISIS, created them because he wanted them to be there. The first and best thing that Trump can do when he's elected is to fire everybody. Now, Bolton, a few Ray, there have been several of the hires. Trump did an awful job with hiring. But if he will come in and fire everybody, I think that's another place where Trump learned some hard lessons that will dramatically improve the results of his next administration. Now, despite Trump's awful hiring decisions, which were made, again, I think under that same problem, that same misconception, he took advice from people in authoritative positions. He made his hiring decisions based on that advice, and it bit him in the ass. Right? So, if the dog bites you once, shame on the dog. If a dog bites you twice, it's because you put your hand back in his mouth. And I don't see Trump making that mistake. I don't. So, like I said, D.C., while it wasn't a surprise, it was a major message. Seeing Nikki Haley win 66% of the vote in Washington, D.C., that's essentially a tacit endorsement of Donald Trump by the American voter, while simultaneously being an opposition to Donald Trump by precisely the people that we need to have eliminated from our governing bodies. What happened yesterday? Trump mopped the fucking floor with Nikki Haley yesterday. She had one win. And it's basically the same thing as winning D.C. Haley, and it's funny because she had her one little win. She just barely squeaked it out. Right? She essentially won by the margin of other candidates. So Haley won Vermont by the amount of other losers that showed up in Vermont. Right? Isn't that where Bernie's from? The fucking hot wash Muppet? The commie ragdoll? Isn't that where Bernie's from? So the people that elected Bernie Sanders want Nikki Haley. Ben and Jerry's wants Nikki Haley over Trump. Obviously, what Ben and Jerry's wants is Soros. Biden. Yeah. But basically, the socialist state prefers Nikki Haley to Donald Trump. The only reason I wouldn't be disappointed if Trump won Vermont is because it would have been a total blowout. And based on the analysis I've just provided, it was a total blowout because, as you can see everywhere else, 63 to 34, 63 to 33. Alabama, okay, no surprise, Alabama, but 83% over Nikki Haley at 13. Donald Trump in Texas, 77 to 17. California. In California, he BTFO'd this bitch 78%, by 80%. Right? So That's I mean, just a complete shutout. Now, there is news. Where did I put the article? I seem to have misplaced it. She hasn't dropped out yet. Nikki Haley hasn't dropped out yet, but she has announced that she is dropping out. Oh, come on. I'll have to rely on Cat Turd for this one. Oh, Nikki Haley's dropping out, and there we go. The redheaded libertarian says Nikki Haley will suspend her campaign this morning, but will not immediately endorse Donald Trump, according to the Wall Street Journal. Let's go for the Wall Street Journal. Fine, we'll go for Business Insider. Business Insider is going to give it to us this morning. So Nikki Haley is dropping out of the 2024 presidential race, and it's about damn time, right? I mean, okay. At no point did any serious person believe that anybody other than Donald Trump could legitimately win the Republican primary this year. There is some speculation, reasonable speculation, that Nikki Haley, Mario and I talked about this yesterday, there's some reasonable speculation that Nikki Haley stuck around this long because she believed that Donald Trump would be convicted, incarcerated, and removed from the ticket. And then she would just be the default candidate if she could just hang on after everybody else dropped out. That was never going to happen. Mario Legion says my prediction was accurate. 10 points to Slytherin. Yes, our obvious and easy prediction was correct. And also to a point I made yesterday, she's dropping out, and I'm not entirely sure what to take away from that, because I still suspect that it was always the case that her entire campaign was based on basically the strategic intent of trying to whittle down, to draw campaign finances away from Trump, to smear him. Basically, she was never there to win the primary. She was only ever there to make the general election harder for Trump. She was only ever there to help pull Trump down on the off chance that they can figure out how to get Biden in there. And guys, Biden can't win this election. The Democrats know this. They're trying to get rid of him. They're trying to figure out a way that they can replace Biden as their candidate. And it's just not going to happen for them. It's just not going to happen. So, if she had not dropped out today, that would essentially have been a tacit admission of every accusation that I just leveled. That she is dropping out today, I don't think vitiates my claim, but you've heard the phrase credit where credit's due. There's not a lot of credit due here because the threshold is 1,215. You need 1,215 delegates coming through the primary, coming out of the primaries, right? In order to just straight up win. And normally you don't have a candidate win the primaries. You have the other candidates drop out. And of course, 1,215 minus 865, she can't get there. Right? There are 865 left. There's no way she gets to 1,215. She's not quitting. She's lost. There is no path to victory. Right? my quick head math is not wrong, is it? $1.5 minus 865. Yeah, she can't make it. She would have to basically win all of the remaining delegates to get close. Right? If she picked up all 865 remaining plus her existing 89, she's at 954. Yeah. I thought so. So she'd still be 300 short if she won every state remaining, which includes, by the way, Georgia. And no, I mean, obviously there's no chance now because she's dropping out. So it's about damn time. Legion says if Nikki swept every remaining state, there would be a brokered convention. No. If she swept every other state, Trump still has her by about 4 points. So she's done. And Pitt Danny points out Trump has already won Georgia with early votes. Technically not true, but again, it's a mathematical certainty. Yes. There will still be a vote, a primary vote in Georgia, and it's next week. So I don't think that Haley will have been removed. No, Haley will still technically be on the ballot, but a vote for her is wasted because she's no longer in the primary. She's out. Now, I'm gonna close on this. The rest of the headline is that Haley is dropping out, and the rest of the headline is, but she will not immediately endorse Trump. Yeah, Alex points out, yes, she'll still be on the ballot, correct, even though she's dropping out. That's how Chris Christie won 1,000 votes in VA. Yes. Correct. Guys, let me remind you, in the 2022 midterm, 4 dead Democrats won their races. I'm not talking about how, after you die, you start voting Democrat. I'm not talking about, vote harvesting going on in the cemeteries. I'm not talking about a shady dude with a clipboard and a pen going through and just writing down names and dates so he can go and check the voter roll for which dead guy hasn't been removed. No. 4 dead Democrat candidates won their races because they hadn't been removed from the ballot after they were pronounced dead. In fairness, I think one of them died after the election, right after the election, but still, 4 dead Democrats. And I mean, really 5 because Fetterman, but but that's the end of that. The fact that she refuses to endorse Trump, I wonder if they're going to make a big deal out of that. I don't really care if they make a big deal out of that, but let's remember, they all signed a pledge to support the nominee. And so now she's refusing to do that. And she can't make the argument, well, there are other candidates that haven't dropped out yet. No, there aren't. There technically, legally are, but we're talking about candidates who never had a chance. Candidates who together got 4% in socialist Vermont. Candidates who, I bet none of you can name all of them because I can't, and I read this shit all the time. And I'll be fair. I've read all of their names, and they didn't matter enough for me to commit them to memory. So I strongly doubt that any of you out there can name all of the also rans in this particular race. Shit, I couldn't name all the also rans in the bloated 2016 race, and I was paying real close attention. And I'm going to close on this. I am actually glad to see Nikki Haley gone, in part because she's a brown woman running for president. And I want you to understand why I say that. If it were the case that she just happened to be brown and a woman running for president, that might be different. And that'd be a different conversation. However, throughout her campaign, she has made it a point to remind you that she is a brown woman and that her election would be a historic feat because she'd be the first brown female president. On that alone, she could never have had my vote. And I'll explain it to you like this. I do not ever, unless it's the only solution to an emergency, I will not do business with a business that says it is black owned or any other ethnicity, minority, anything. Anytime if I see that your business is advertised as black owned, and I use that one in particular because we see a lot of it here in Georgia, what you're telling me is that rather than try and convince me, rather than market to me based on the quality of your product, quality of your service, the value, rather than try to sell me on every other point that a reasonable person would attempt to sell me their product or service, that I'm supposed to believe that it would be a valuable choice for me to engage in racism and choose you over a competitor based on your personal immutable characteristic. That just because you are part of the victim stack, that I owe you my money? I had this conversation on air with Herman Cain after he dropped out and started his radio show. I managed to get on the show with Herman for a little while, and I had this conversation. I told him, I voted for you. I voted for him in the primary that year. And I told him, I told him, look, on the one hand, I wanted to see Herman Cain walk out on the stage with Barack Obama and say, there is no cream in my coffee. I will be America's first black president. I was just begging for that soundbite, for that moment. It would have been chef's kiss, hilarious. But at the same time, I told Herman I was worried about a black man winning the Republican race at that point because Obama's entire campaign was vote for me because I'm black. Not because I'm the best qualified for the job, not because I know what I'm doing, not because I love my country, not because I've put in valuable service, not because I've earned the position, not because you could trust me based on my record, but because I'm black and for no other reason. And I explained to Herman, my concern there is that if you, as a black man, win the presidency over Barack Obama, that the next election will be between not policies, but immutable characteristics. It'll be, well, hey, we've got a black Republican, and the reply will be, well, we've got a gay Indian Democrat. And then it'll be a trans something or other. And the point will no longer be what is good for the American people. It will be a victim race to the bottom to get the least competent, valuable person they can find. Because eventually you go from, I have X victim status characteristic, to I'm just broker and sadder and deserve more money than you, because from each according to his need, his ability, and to each according to his need. And once you go down that road of pure communism, of pure Marxism, you are actively incentivizing people to mutilate and injure themselves, or to claim that they have sick family members so that they get to take more from the pool, more from the community pile, based on their individual needs. And the question of what is good policy is eliminated entirely. The unfortunate truth of the matter is that we see people like Robert Levine becoming the first female four-star general, having never served in a military in his life, and being handed the highest rank available based exclusively on his individual expression of his own mental disorder and sexual depravity. And the result, and we've seen that with more and more officers in the military, and the result has been that good men, and this is much like the problem of politics, good men no longer want to serve the country in the military. Our government has become corrupt because the job is abhorrent to good men, and so good men do not seek the position. Our military has become the same thing. And it is because we have a section of this country who have begun selecting based entirely on the victim stack, with the intentional exclusion to any meritocratic basis on which to choose a candidate for a job, for a political office, for anything. I had that conversation with Herman Cain, and at the time, it was kind of like the moment when I said, with respect to the Ahmaud Arbery case, where I pointed out, look, the objective, what the left wants, is to make crimes permissible for people based on their immutable characteristics. We're talking 4.5 years ago now that I talked about that, and at the time I thought that I was making a hyperbolic claim to make a more pointed point, but it turns out, no, I'm just fucking right. I mean, if I were any more right, I would sublimate into an ephemeral cloud of qualitative erudition, and you would just have to walk around with my thoughts in your head. So, I appreciate your time this morning, guys. I hope you enjoyed the show. I've got a meeting in 10, so we love you, and we will see you tomorrow.